Hello, and thank you for joining us today to our Saving Money, Saving Energy webinar. We have a great program for you today with Loie Hayes, who's our membership coordinator here at Green Energy Consumers Alliance, and Stefan Wallenberg, who is the lead strategic business analyst for National Grid. They're both energy efficiency experts, and they have a lot of information to share with you. We are recording this webinar, which means we'll post the recording and send you a link within a day or two, and you'll be able to review any information that you missed. We also have a couple of things going at once to have a more interactive experience with you so that we can know the questions you're thinking about and a little bit about our audience so that we can tailor our information that we're providing. And for that, we've launched a poll. If you could please answer and respond the utility that provides your electricity, National Grid, Eversource, Unitil, Cape Light Compact, or the municipal light plans. In a minute, I'm going to close the poll and then we'll start with our presentation. And I also wanted to draw your attention to another feature of the GoToWebinar interface. There is a panel on the right side, usually comes on the right side unless you moved your GoToWebinar interface that allows you to ask us questions. We will be monitoring the questions throughout the webinar, and we'll have a good amount of time at the end for a Q&A, and we encourage you to submit your questions and we'll go through them at the end and respond. And if we don't, we'll follow up. If we don't have time, we run out of time, we'll follow up with you afterwards. So we really appreciate you joining us today and your time. Last couple of seconds to respond to the poll question as people are trickling in to joining us. Please respond to the question we have right now about the utility that's supplying your electricity. Choices: National Grid, Eversource, Unitil, Cape Light Compact. It looks like we have most of the people who are attending right now have already voted. If you have not yet voted, please cast your vote and then we will get started. And if you have found the questions panel, if you could give me a shout out about my sound, and we're going to make sure that my sound is good. And then we will start with Loie Hayes as soon as I close the poll. All right, we are above 90% responded, so we will start. I'm going to close the poll. I'm getting some shout outs about my sound. My sound's good. Okay, great. I'm so glad. Anytime you have questions, please pop them in the question panel and we will close the poll. All right, and the results of our poll seems like about pretty evenly National Grid and Eversource, with about 13% of the respondents showing that they are in municipal light plant, and then 44 and 44% in National Grid and Eversource. Very good. That helps us understand our audience. And we will now go back and go back to my slideshow. Here we go. All right, we are ready. And I'd like to introduce Loie Hayes, our membership coordinator here at Green Energy Consumers Alliance, who's an expert at energy efficiency, to start us off.
Great. Hi, everybody. I think we're going to have a fun afternoon. I just love talking about energy efficiency, so I am really happy that we have this opportunity to talk with Stefan, who's a former colleague and all-around sweet guy. So wonderful. And thank you so much to Daria Mark, my colleague, who's managing the webinar details for us today. So just the agenda, we'll do a short introduction from Green Energy Consumers Alliance. I'll pass it over to Stefan for the Energy Savings Program overview, and then we'll do a Q&A as long as time allows. Next slide, please. The Green Energy Consumers Alliance, we are all about helping people make green energy choices We are a nonprofit. We were founded in 1982. From that very beginning, we were pro-consumer and pro-environment. We started as an oil buyers co-op, and we still do that work, helping to bring down the cost of heating oil for Massachusetts and Rhode Island residents and people in southern New Hampshire now. We do primarily work in the two-state area. We used to be called Mass Energy in Massachusetts and People's Power and Light in Rhode Island, and now we're one organization, that's Green Energy Continuum Alliance. We have additional programs for electric cars, for clean electricity, for clean heating, with heat pumps, for solar. So we try to do everything we can to help people make sustainability affordable. Next slide, please. So we're going to do a short poll now on how you know Green Energy Consumers Alliance, again, just so we can understand who's in the audience. You can choose any of these that you're involved in, as many as you want to, as many as you're familiar with already. The Drive Green program, Green Powered Solar with Energy Stage, the Heat Oil Service program, and the Heat Pump program. We also have Shave the Peak. You may know us from that. But if you want to take just a minute to choose these, we're really happy that many of our members come in for one source of information and then look to us again when they're ready to replace a car or when they are considering replacing their heating system. We'll just take another minute for that. Daria, how's that looking for responses?
Yeah, we have about half the audience has responded. And if one of the choices that you know us through is not here, feel free to type it in the questions. We'd love to know how you found us and how you found the webinar.
Yep. Sorry, these only allow for 5 options, so we didn't have space to put in none of the above. But you could write none of the above in the chat function or in the questions if you want. And why don't we move on, Daria? Back to the presentation. There you go. So just a little bit about me. I am the energy efficiency coach. That's why I'm here on this wonderful event today. I've been doing energy efficiency coaching for City of Boston residents since 2007, I believe. I've been organizing different educational events around energy and energy savings. Lifelong passion. And I just love to learn more. So I love it when you can tell me, oh, I found a new thing, or what's the latest that you've heard about this? Have you read this article? So please do share your learnings with me so that I can share them with other people that I encounter in my work. Next slide. And I'm also here because I have had a virtual home energy assessment, and I can assure you that it's easy and painless and very much worthwhile. The process is simple. You call either Mass Save or EnergyWise Rhode Island, and the numbers are in the handout, and they'll be in the slides as well. When you make that call, you'll be asked to choose what type of technology works for you. Is it a Zoom call, a Google Hangout? If you don't have a smartphone, you know how to set up an audio home energy assessment by taking photos and sending those to the energy specialist. Once the appointed time arrives, you log in and you walk around the house using your phone as a camera or describing it if you're on an audio call. Here is a picture of me holding up the phone to the shower head to show the energy specialist that yes, I have already got a low flow shower head, and he doesn't need to send me one of those. And afterward, you receive an email from the, oops, not yet, from the energy specialist, and that describes what he or she heard you say, what they saw, what they recommend for your home. If they do recommend insulation, they may be sending you a contract as well. And that contract is based on terms that are pretty much fixed across the board for all the vendors who are involved in the program. So you don't need to do cost comparisons between vendors. If the state program has recommended insulation, you know you're getting the best price available. I mean, you can do cost comparison if you want to, but you can also rest assured and just sign the contract if you want to move forward with the installation recommended. If it's something else, in the case of my house, thinking about upgrading my heating system, in my follow-up email from the energy specialist, it included the heat loan application form that would start the process of me financing a heating system replacement project. So it's really a painless process. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to address just a couple common barriers to installation before we get started. One of those are for those of you who live in towns with municipal electricity providers. In the Massachusetts map, they're shaded pink here. I'm sorry, I don't have a Rhode Island map to show you, but you know if you are, because you don't have National Grid or Eversource, you're getting a bill on your bill. If you have electricity from a municipal plant, but you have gas from one of the investor-owned utilities, you can still get services from all the programs that Stefan is going to describe. But if you heat with oil and have your electricity from one of the munis, then you're not eligible. And if you go to the next click through, you'll see our solution is the solution that we're offering to this common barrier is the Home MVP program in Massachusetts. It does help fund work for oil heated homes in municipal territories. It helps other homes as well, but it's been an important innovation in the last couple of years, and we wanted to make sure that you know about this if you're in this situation. Next slide, please. Other common barriers. The three photos on the left show a brick-sided house, an asphalt shingle-sided house, and an asbestos-sided house. All of these are relatively difficult to insulate, but not impossible. And again, the Home MVP program may be able to help you, and it's possible that the state or the Rhode Island programs can help you as well. The other problem that sometimes stops people from getting insulation is that they're actually having moisture come through their roof. They have leaks in their roof, or they have leaks in their foundation, and too much moisture is getting in, and it's causing a problem with potential mold, and homes can't be insulated in those situations. So again, Dara, if you want to show our solution, again, we're recommending the Home MVP program. It may be that Mass Save or the EnergyWise Rhode Island can help you, but we recognize that there are barriers, and we're here to help if we can. And this is one of the resources that we can steer you to. Next slide. The final barrier to insulation regarding your building, on the left you see an asbestos-clad heating system. This is what we call the snowman in the basement. You don't see many of them, but I have seen one or two in my day. And there are special programs to help get rid of that, encapsulate and remove that asbestos insulation. Also, vermiculite is a type of blown-in insulation that was popular before the blown-in cellulose, and that is a potentially toxic substance that would have to be removed before you could put in more insulation in your attic. So there are programs for both of those. On the right, you see knob and tube wiring. The porcelain knob on the left and tube on the right has an electrical wire spanning it. This is potentially a fire hazard if you're blowing in insulation. Even if there isn't a wire, but you can still see the porcelain knob or tube, you need to have an electrician sign off on that. Again, Daria, if you would show the solution for this. It is the barrier mitigation grant. This is a Mass Save DOER program for income qualified homes. The income limit is around $95,000 for a family of 4, and you can see the full income grid at this website, and this information is in your handout. Next slide. The final one that I'll do is just another common barrier to getting insulation work done is if you are a landlord or a tenant, there's big questions about what the incentive is to get that work done and who bears the cost and who bears the benefit. So email us. If you're a tenant or a landlord, email us. We're happy to talk you through this more complicated topic. We do have information on our website for landlords and tenants as well. And we're happy to be here to help. And I believe that is the last of my slides. And we have one poll before Stefan starts. Daria. There's the poll.
Yep. Sorry, I have a few things to click to get the poll up. So here we have the poll. And also, Loie alluded to this in your GoToWebinar panel, there should be a handout. I've put the links that Loie has shared along with the phone numbers that you'll need to call in Massachusetts or Rhode Island into the handout. So if you want everything all in one place, I encourage you to take a look at the handout. And also, as Stefan goes through the information, have a piece of paper and a pen ready or a pencil so that you can note what you have. So we have about 78% of the participants have voted. And anybody else wants to last few minutes before moments before I turn it over to Stefan and we finish our portion? We have great, we're over 80%. So 40% of people said yes, they have had a home energy assessment in the last 2 years, and 60% of the participants said no, they have not had the assessment in the last 2 years. So let me turn it over to Stefan.
Okay. All right, bear with me 1 second here. I will share my screen. Sorry, folks. I am a millennial, but I'm still challenged in many millennial ways.
No problem.
Can you see the screen that has PowerPoint up yet?
I see the screen that has PowerPoint up yet, but you're not yet presenting.
Great.
And the PowerPoint's tiny, now it's bigger, now you're presenting. Perfect, we are ready to go. And
okay.
Reminder, folks, I've seen a few questions, so if you take a minute, find that question panel. We have a lot of great questions coming in. Please keep them coming, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end.
Cool. All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Stefan Wallenberg. I'm going to resist the urge to talk about some of the stuff that Loie brought up because I too like talking energy. But I'm going to get through my slides really quickly so that we have plenty of time to chat at the end. And just because I talk really fast, so it's going to happen anyway. Okay, so I'm Stefan Wallenberg. Why am I presenting? So I lead National Grid's residential energy efficiency strategy in Massachusetts. As Loie mentioned, I used to work at, it was then Mass Energy, now Green Energy Consumers Alliance. This is a little picture of me down here when I was younger and more naive, and I was dancing in front of a wind turbine. That was a very exciting day. That was awesome. And like Loie, I will talk energy efficiency to anyone ad nauseum. So this is a pretty good fit for me. Okay, so a couple things. First, I work in Massachusetts, so I tend to talk more about Massachusetts specific stuff, but everything in here, unless I say otherwise, applies to both Massachusetts and Rhode Island, so apologies for my Massachusetts-centric delivery. The other thing that I want to note is that I will almost definitely use the following acronyms, even though I'm going to try really hard not to, but I want to give people a heads up in case I do, so they know what the hell I'm talking about. So if I say HEA, I mean home energy assessment, so like an energy audit. If I say VHEA, I mean virtual home energy assessment, which is what we're here to talk about. If I say PA, I mean program administrator, and by that I mean one of the entities that offers Mass Save. So I'm going to try really hard not to use those, but it's probably going to happen, so apologies if it does. And apologies for my super cool headset. My dogs tend to howl as soon as they think I'm talking to someone else and not paying attention to them, and this is the only way that it's a little bit quieter if they do start howling. Okay, so I just kind of want to start at the beginning a little bit. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about how National Grid approached responding to the pandemic that we're in now, because I think it helps understand why we're offering what we're offering, why we're doing what we're doing, those sorts of things. And this is, I'd say, more or less an order of priority. So first, obviously, we're really concerned about public health. So everything that we do is guided by what we can do to make sure we're protecting the health, first of all, of our customers, but also, all of the contractors that we work with and people that work at National Grid, which is why I'm working at home. So transparency, we're trying to do as best we possibly can to communicate all of the things that we're doing. Things are changing on a daily basis. We're making decisions as program administrators faster than we ever have before, which is really exciting, but sometimes we get a little out in front of our skis. But we're doing our best there. The next thing that we're really trying to do is we're really trying to do everything we can to support the contractors that bring the benefits of the Mass Save program to all of our customers, to all of the folks that benefit. So that's been things like offering additional free trainings to those contractors. We have been really trying our best to develop alternative ways of delivering programs that our vendors have historically delivered them, so that we can continue to give them work so that they can keep more of their workforce employed, which is beneficial now and also benefits all of us in the future as we try to get back to work, to make sure that we're not losing folks from the energy efficiency industry. And then the last thing is that, and this is related, we're really just trying to make sure that we're setting everyone up for success once we start to come out of this pandemic. And one of the things that we're trying to do there is we're trying to build up as much possible demand as we possibly can for some of the services that we've had to suspend. A lot of our contractors furloughed a lot of staff. And one of the ways that we're trying our best to make sure that those contractors bring back as many staff as quickly as they possibly can is by showing them that they should bring back all of their staff, because we're going to make sure we're doing everything we can to give them as much work as they need to keep them in business, to keep those folks occupied. That's where you come in. So we're going to talk about one of the ways that you can help us in that effort, which is really important. So a little more context. So for timeline, again, this is Massachusetts focused on the Governor Baker thing, but March 10th, we had the governor declared a state of emergency. About a week later, the Mass Save PAs, including National Grid in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, we suspended all of our in-home or on-site, that's residential and commercial energy efficiency programs. And then less than 2 weeks later, National Grid completed our first virtual HEA. I know it's like the common joke about how slowly utilities move. This is a light speed thing for utilities. It was a really exciting time, a really scary, a really upsetting, but also a really exciting time to be working for National Grid, because we really did spool up something that was almost completely new in less than 2 weeks. And that's what we're here to talk about, the virtual HEA. And then the last point on this timeline is in June, I'll talk about this in the end, but in June, we're just starting to get some of our field services back into the field, which we're really excited about. We're going to talk about how we're approaching that to make sure that we're doing it safely, and we'll get there at the end. Okay. So there were a lot of things that we were able to continue to offer, and obviously we're still offering now. We're offering online assessments, which is a little different than a virtual HEA. It's a really cool service. You go in, you answer, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 questions, takes about 5 minutes, and then you get personalized recommendations for programs that you could benefit from. If you've never done it, highly recommend it. You can find it at masssave.com or on the National Grid website if you're in Rhode Island. Upstream discounts, I hope that most folks are aware that, if you go to a Lowe's or a True Value or whatever, and you buy a light bulb, that light bulb is less expensive in Massachusetts and Rhode Island than it would have been because National Grid and the other program administrators basically work with the manufacturers and the retailers to reduce that price so that you don't have to submit a rebate or anything. It's already less expensive to just encourage you to make those efficient purchasing decisions. We continue to offer all of our other rebates for appliances, heating and cooling. I'd love to tell you about all the rebates we have, but I definitely don't have time to. Demand response program, we've got demand response for thermostats and battery energy storage on the residential side, and then lots of other things on the commercial side. The heat loan, refrigerator cycling, these are all things that we continue to offer, and you can still benefit from now in addition to some of the other things that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about virtual home energy assessments. So unlike Loie, I have not actually had a VHEA, so she actually gave some great information, and I'll try not to repeat too much of it. But to talk about the virtual HEA, I think I'll first just talk a little bit about what a normal home energy assessment HEA consists of. So the goal is pretty straightforward, right? We're trying to provide the resident a comprehensive whole home evaluation of everything that consumes energy in the home, with recommendations on things that they can improve and with things that we improve just while we're in the house. So things that the normal home energy assessment include are an evaluation for all major measure opportunities. We do combustion safety testing. It's a great opportunity for you to talk with an energy expert about the things that you specifically are encountering in your home and you're interested in pursuing. You get those, we call them instant savings measures or ISMs, things like light bulbs and shower heads that they can install right when they're at your house during that first visit. And then recommendations for larger things like air sealing and insulation. You might hear me call those weatherization. And then rebates for appliances, heating and cooling, things like that. And then at the end, you get a report, as Loie talked about, that documents all of those things. So from the in-person HEA to the virtual home energy assessment, I tried to do what I thought was a fun, clever thing here. It's not that clever, but you will notice that the goal for the virtual HEA is identical. We really tried to develop something that would offer as many, if not all, as many as possible of the same benefits that folks were getting from that in-person home energy assessment. So if you look at the list of things that we're offering here, there are only a couple things that are different, right? So first, obviously we can't do combustion safety testing remotely. That get real complicated real fast. So instead, we are completing that combustion safety testing. If you do follow through with weatherization work, we're doing it when we come out to do that weatherization work. So we can still make sure that everything is operating correctly in your home and there aren't carbon monoxide or drafting or other issues that we're going to compound by making your envelope a little bit tighter, by making the shell of your house a little tighter. We're just doing it at a different time. And then again, obviously we can't install a light bulb for you, but what we can do is work with you to identify each opportunity and ship to you exactly the things that you need. So if you have, a couple of old incandescent candelabra, we can ship to you LED candelabra. You're gonna have to install them yourself, and we're gonna ask you to sign a form that promises us that you will install them, which I know you're gonna do. But we're still able to get you some of those products so you can start saving almost right away. But then again, pretty much everything else is intended to be exactly like the HEA. We can tell you not just that you could benefit from weatherization, but we're going to tell you how much insulation we think you need, how much air sealing we think you need, and where, how much it's going to cost. In this instance, nothing. We'll talk about that. And how much you're likely to save. And then at the end, again, we'll give you a report that documents all of it. Okay, so an overview of the process. And again, Loie talked about this a little bit. But first, you'll call us and we'll do some scheduling. We'll talk to you about some of the things that would make you eligible or ineligible for virtual HEA. Like Loie said, we're going to talk to you about what your preferred means of communication is. We're going to be really flexible here, again, as she said. Whatever works for you, we're going to make work as long as you can provide pictures to us if you're not able to do a video chat. We'll collect a little bit of other basic information. We may ask for some photos actually before we have the virtual HEA with you. We may ask for a couple of other data points just to make sure that we are as prepared as we possibly can when the time the virtual HEA itself comes. So next, and what you're not experiencing, is that behind the scenes, the energy specialist gets all of that information, and they're taking that information and they're digging into other resources to prepare as best they can for the virtual HEA. They're gathering information from things like online assessors databases. They're looking at satellite images. They're looking at other things that will help them to narrow in on what your opportunity is likely to be, so that when we have that virtual HEA with you, that call or video chat, as you prefer, we know what to look for, and we can make it as good a use of your time as possible. And then the big day comes, so we'll have the virtual HEA. We'll walk through your house. We'll ask you to show us where some of the lighting opportunities might be, water opportunities. We'll probably ask you to walk us down to your basement, show us your heating and cooling equipment, those sorts of things. And all throughout, you're going to be talking right with the energy specialist. You can ask questions along the way, obviously. And it's just a great opportunity to talk while that's happening about your home and where some of the opportunities for your home might be. After that, usually there will be a little bit of a pause. So the energy specialist will be able to take everything that you guys discussed on the phone, and then they'll compile specific recommendations and your home energy report, and they'll provide those to you. And you can either communicate by email after that or have a follow-up chat with the energy specialist to talk things through. Again, we're trying to be flexible and make things work for you. After that, again, if there were things like lighting opportunities, we'll ship those to you and you'll install them. You can sign a contract for the air sealing and insulation recommendations that we provided to you. Like Loie said, one of the great things about the programs that National Grid and Mass Save offer are that we have contractors already under contract to do that work. So you don't have to negotiate any rates for yourself. We've already done that. And in fact, if you want to participate in our program, you have to use one of those contractors. The good thing is we have more than 100 installation contractors for you to choose from. So we can assign someone to you, or if you prefer, if you have a contractor that works in our program that you want to work with, you're more than welcome to work with that contractor. And then you enjoy your more efficient, more comfortable home, and you tell all your friends so that they can benefit from this too. Okay, so for eligibility, you have to live in a 1 to 4 unit home right now. We're working on ways to try to make this work for larger buildings, but we wanted to launch something quickly, and this is a place where we know we could do this accurately. You have to be able to take pictures or do a video chat with us. You have to be a National Grid customer or be served by one of the Mass Save PAs. So that's going to be one of those investor-owned utility companies, either on the electric or the gas side. And then there are going to be certain types of homes, even if it is a 1 to 4 unit home, that may not be a good candidate for an HEA. So, if you've got a fun roof line like this, I don't know if it's the breakers, but if you've got a crazy roof line like this, or your home is totally obscured by trees, we may say, you know what, we really want to come out and we want to help you save, but we can't do an accurate job. We can't do a good job over the phone or by video chat. So we'll schedule something for when we can come out and visit you in person. What we need for you to do, it's not a whole lot. So you have to be able to talk to the energy specialists. You're going to need to be able to access all parts of your home. So we'll almost definitely need you to go into the basement. If you have a walk-up attic, or if you have an attic with a hatch that you don't mind sticking your head up into, that's really helpful. So we'll ask you to do that. And then again, you have to commit to installing the products that we send to you, because we want to make sure that if we're paying for things using ratepayer money, using all of our money, that you're actually going to install them, and we're all going to benefit from those savings. So the good thing is that we're going to make this as easy as possible. So we've developed a lot of things to make this intuitive and easy for you. One of the things that we've been doing is we found that energy specialists, much like me, right, can often jump into jargon or just things that may not make a whole lot of sense to an average homeowner, which probably isn't the people on this webinar, but still. So one of the things that we did is we developed some visual aids that the contractor can use if they're struggling to get through the virtual HEA with you. So they can send you right there, and it'll basically give you examples of all of the things that they might ask you about. So if they're asking you, what's happening with your rim joist, right? This photo over here will help you focus in on exactly where the rim joist is in your basement. We're also toying around with new technologies. We're rolling out with some of our contractors a pretty cool service that allows them to basically draw little arrows and actually even measure things through your phone if you do a video chat with them. So that's pretty cool, and that's something that we're going to build on if we find that customers are finding that valuable. How do we know if you need insulation? This is a really tricky one, but the biggest thing that we use to try to zero in on what your opportunity is the year that your home was built. So basically, we worked with our vendors to develop basically a big fancy spreadsheet that looks at the age of your home and then looks at not just what code requirements were for different parts of your home, but also what standard practices were based on field experiences for those different times. And so that kind of gives us a starting view of what we think is likely to be in your home. After that, we'll build on that with information that you'll provide us about, renovations and additions that may have occurred, other publicly available information that we might have about past participation in our program. So whether you already insulated your attic with us 5 years ago or something like that. So we put all of those pieces of information together along with some of the photos and other information you'll provide during the VHEA to come up with what we think is going to be a pretty good picture of what your home could benefit from. And then we can use things like satellite images and tax assessors databases to actually see what the quantities of those different things are. So how many square feet of dense pack wall insulation you might need, or how many square feet your attic might need, so that we can develop that pretty specific scope and give you a sense of how much you might be able to save and how much the cost of the work is going to be. And then at the end of it, again, as Loie mentioned, we pull all of it together in this report. So this is a real report. On the left here, it shows recommendations for insulation and air sealing. It includes, again, how much it would actually cost, how much the savings are, how much we're going to pay for it, payback period, all of those things so that you can make a really informed decision. It shows equipment recommendations for heating and cooling. And then, we try to give you very specific concrete next steps so that you can follow through with some of these recommendations. There's a lot of other great information in the report, but these are some of the highlights that I wanted to share. Okay, so you've completed your virtual HEA. What is next? So first, I said this 4 times, I'm so sorry, but we'll ship you the products that we identify that you can install yourself. So bulbs and water savings devices, maybe a smart strip, maybe a thermostat, but that may be something that you prefer to wait for us to install. You'll sign your weatherization contract if we found opportunities. And again, you can either pick your own contractor from the list of vendors that we have available, or we'll just assign one to you. And then you'll get that work done. And then ideally, you're going to follow up on some of those other recommendations that we make about equipment that you should really consider upgrading. And we'll provide you with specific information about what incentives you could benefit from and give you some other information to help you along the way. And then you'll start saving. So to sweeten the deal even more, we are offering 100% off insulation. So, usually we offer at least 75% off insulation. There are opportunities for moderate income customers to get more. There are opportunities for folks that live in rental buildings to get more. But right now, for everyone across the board, anything that we recommend, we will offer fully at no cost. In Rhode Island, there's a cap at $15,000. In Massachusetts, it's the whole scope that we find. To be eligible for this, you have to call and schedule your virtual HEA by the end of July. So make sure that if you haven't already done this and you haven't already insulated your home, that you're getting in touch with us before July 31st. And then after that, you just have to complete the work by the end of November. And that's pretty much it. So it's really hard for us to offer something that's a better deal than fully no-cost insulation. So we really hope that people are going to take us up on this. There are a lot of reasons to do this. Obviously, insulation and air sealing, they will save you money on your energy bill. They will make your home more comfortable. I come to all of this from an interest in sustainability. So obviously, it's the right thing to do for the environment. The other thing, and I mentioned this a little bit before, but we're really trying to do everything we can to make sure that the energy efficiency industry is doing as best we possibly can, employing as many people as we can, not losing folks to other parts of the economy. And you doing a virtual HEA and then following through with this work can help make sure that we're employing as many of these folks as we possibly can, and really trying to protect a really impressive energy efficiency workforce that we've all collectively built over decades now. Okay, so then obviously that begs the question, when are we actually going to be able to do insulation, since that's something that we suspended? So Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire utilities, right from when all of this started, immediately started developing protocols that would govern our resumption of in-home services. So we hired an environmental health and engineering company basically to help us work through this. So we provided all of the expertise about what it is that we do in the field, and they provided all of the expertise about what we can do to make sure that that's as safe as possible for the customers and for the contractors. That's always going to be our priority in everything that we're doing. So we have pretty much finalized all of those protocols. We are still in the process of training some of the crews on those protocols and getting a couple of other things in place. But we're almost at a point where we are going to be back in the field with some of this weatherization work. We started doing a couple of sites in Massachusetts late last week. And next week, and those jobs were just outside of the home. Next week, we'll actually start doing some work that does involve going back inside the home. Again, all of this work will be governed by these protocols that were developed by this environmental health consultant. And we have, I think, probably the most robust quality assurance process to make sure that folks are actually abiding by these protocols that you'll encounter anywhere. At a minimum, every first job that someone does will have a trainer along for the ride to make sure that that everyone there who's already done a training, to make sure that they're really well versed in all of the protocols, to make sure that they're abiding by them, to answer questions that either the homeowner or the crew might have as things come up. And then after that, we continue to have a really high level of checks with all of those crews to make sure that they'll continue to work with these protocols. There are going to be delays. It's not a light switch. So, if you're really anxious to get your work done, that's awesome. We will contact you when your contractor is ready to get back in the field. If you're really anxious, obviously feel free to reach out to us too, and we can make sure that that's happening as quickly as it possibly can. But because all of this is new to us and to our contractors, and because we're so focused on making sure that this happens safely, be a little patient with us if there are some additional delays. Okay, your next steps. So these are in the handout. These numbers are in the handout that Loie and Daria put together and are available in the webinar. But in Massachusetts, you can call 866-527-SAVE to schedule your virtual home energy assessment. In Rhode Island, you can call 888-633-7947. If you are not in an eligible building type, if you have already done insulation or weatherization at your home, there are a ton of other things that we have available. Take the online home energy assessment, which you can find links to in Massachusetts and Rhode Island here at the bottom of this page. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that people were aware of is that we have really, really amazing programs that benefit income eligible, lower income folks. And that consists not just of really comprehensive, fully no-cost energy efficiency programs, but also things like a discount on your electricity or your gas bill. So the criteria for those things is up on the screen now. So I encourage you to take a look at this. And I would also note that, if your income has changed recently, maybe you previously looked into this and found that you were not eligible for these programs, it's possible that you're eligible now. And we want to make sure that everyone that may be eligible for these programs is benefiting from them as much as they possibly can. So again, there's information about where you can, there are links to where you can find more information about this for Massachusetts and Rhode Island here and in the handout. Okay, that's what I got. So it looks like we've got some time here. Sorry, yeah, I was hoping to do that even faster, but.
No problem. We have 15 minutes. Let's see if we can get through some good questions. We have great questions. I just want to give one disclaimer that and Stefan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe any of the incentive programs, Mass Save or the Rhode Island program, deal with solar, right? Installation of solar. So if you're thinking about solar, I saw a couple of questions that reference solar installation. For solar information, go to greenenergyconsumers.org/solar, and we have resources there and connections. And so for solar questions, because we have quite a few questions and not very much time, I will put those aside and please direct you to the /solar webpage. So question number 1, how do I know if I'm eligible if I just bought a new home and I don't know, or bought it a year or so ago, and I don't know if the previous owner has done an assessment, but the house definitely needs work?
Yeah, so if you're not sure, I would call. The folks that will schedule you will be able to look up if you've had an assessment within the last 2 years, and they can help answer that question for you. So if in doubt, definitely give us a call. I will say, I know that some folks recommend that people get an energy assessment every 2 years. If you have had an energy assessment 3 or 4 years ago and you followed through on all of the recommendations, there's probably not a lot of new things that we're going to be able to offer you. So, we try to make sure that we're delivering the programs to folks that can benefit from them the most. So that's a thing that I would note. But if you're a new homeowner and you're in doubt, absolutely give us a call.
Great, thank you. And I just want to make sure everybody caught that. You can get an energy assessment every 2 years. That's the interval. There was another question on that also. Munis, municipal light plants. Could you go over again the criteria of when and how either whoever wants to take that on, how you would know if you're eligible if you have a municipal light plant?
You want to take that, Stefan, and I'll chime in if need be?
Sure. So if you are served by a municipal light plant and you heat with natural gas from Columbia Gas, Berkshire Gas, Unitil, National Grid, I don't think I'm leaving anybody out, and basically an investor-owned utility company, then you are eligible for these programs. You may not be eligible specifically for rebates on things that use electricity. So you may not be eligible, for instance, for a refrigerator recycling or an air conditioner rebate, but you're absolutely eligible for the home energy assessment, and we'll be able to tell you during the home energy assessment all of the things that you are eligible for. If you're served by a municipal light plant and you have gas that is provided also by a muni, then you would not be eligible for Mass Save. Or if you are served by a municipal light plant, but you have no gas and you heat with oil or propane or wood or something like that, then again, you would not be eligible for the Mass Save programs. But there may be other things that, like Loie was talking about before.
Great. Can we get a home energy assessment done if the previous owner has had it done in the last 2 years? And is there any way to maybe reference the assessment that was done on the home if the answer is no?
Yes. So if the previous homeowner had an assessment that was done, the first thing that we'll try to do is one of the main ways that you're going to benefit from an assessment is following through on the weatherization. That's where the biggest savings are for sure. So if a previous owner had an energy assessment and we found opportunities for for weatherization, we may be able to work with you to just go straight to weatherization and cut out the home energy assessment in the middle. We'll talk through the specifics of that with you, but that's often what we'll try to recommend, because it just makes things as easy as possible.
Great, thank you. Someone is asking about doing a remodel on a part of their home, in this case, like a 3-season porch, and which has old and insufficient insulation. What are their options? Can they get insulation discounts to modernize the porch, bring it up to?
Yes. So we have a program that we call renovations and additions. So basically, the home energy assessment is designed for folks that are not doing like a renovation or addition on their home. If you're basically the guidance is that if you're doing anything that exposes the studs in your home, then you would probably want to go to the renovations and additions program. And essentially what we do there is you'll work with a HERS rater who will build a model of your home. And then essentially what we do is we pay you per unit of energy saved based on how much you're saving over code. So it's a long way of saying that we definitely have programs that are available. And if you go on the masssave.com website, you can, and this is a Massachusetts specific offer. I think that Rhode Island has something similar, although I would have to look into that. But yes, if you're doing a renovation or you're doing an addition, you're exposing studs, then you should definitely look into the renovations and additions program. The incentives are not as generous. And the reason for that simply is that, when you do expose studs, it triggers code, and that affects how much we are allowed to incentivize things. But the folks that run that program are really wonderful to work with and can help answer all of those questions.
Awesome. I really appreciate everyone's questions. I'm going to try to move us along and try to get to all of them. Let's see. If I had insulation blown in over 10 years ago, can I get new insulation done now?
In most cases, probably not, realistically. If you haven't had a recent home energy assessment, you can give us a call, but it's going to depend on the amount of insulation that's already in there. But in most cases, if you've had fairly recent insulation, and I would include 10 years ago fairly recent, then we're probably not going to be able to add to it. And
Okay.
I can go into the reasons why, but they're not super interesting. So
okay, I have at least 7 more questions, so I think we should keep going.
Okay.
Let's see. There's a lot of really great ones here, and I want to get to them. Does the free insulation offer apply to in-person home energy assessments? And separate question, but related to the same idea, is the 100% off of insulation based on your income? So does it apply to in-person, and is it based on your income?
Yes, so that would be for any energy assessment, virtual or in-person, as long as you schedule by July 31st. But I would encourage you to just do the virtual HEA if that is something that you're able to do, and not wait for in-person home energy assessments to resume. And then the second question was, is it an income-based offer? So no, the 100% off insulation is for everyone. That is not income-based. We do have the income eligible program, which has obviously no cost air sealing and insulation all the time, in addition to all of the other things that are offered. And in Massachusetts, we have a 100% off insulation offer for moderate income customers. That's up to 80% of state median income, which there's a chart that is on the MassSave website. But for now, it's not tied to income. This is for anyone that meets the other eligibility requirements.
Awesome, thank you. So I have multiple questions about this. What are the Mass Save options for heat pumps and water heaters?
So I'm not going to be able to do justice to that question, like all of the details, because we have different incentives depending on heating type and what your existing heating fuel is, and whether it's a furnace or a boiler, heat pump, water heater, gas, or whatever. But suffice it to say that we have really generous rebates for all of those things. For heat pumps specifically, we have really generous incentives for customers that are switching to heat pumps from electric resistance, oil, or propane. So those incentives are $1,250 per ton, which for most homes, will be in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. It'll obviously depend on the size of your home and the size of the system, but it's a really, really great incentive. And then you can also finance the installation of your heat pump using the heat loan up to $25,000. So that, there are a lot of great ways that we're trying to encourage customers to switch to heat pumps, especially from delivered fuels that are expensive and dirty.
I'll just
And
add,
how about, yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
just add in here for gas heated homes in Massachusetts that want to completely replace their gas system with heat pumps. The Mass Clean Energy Center has a whole home heat pump program running now that offers similarly strong incentives.
Great. And I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you address water heaters? So a few people asked if there's any Mass Save water heating incentives.
Yes, there are. And again, I won't, oops, sorry, go ahead, Loie.
Yeah, you can find that information on the Mass Save website. There are incentives depending on what type you're talking about.
Okay, rebates to replace an old leaky sliding glass door. We can expand that to think about a little bit of envelope, any kind of structural issues like that.
So for windows and doors, we don't have incentives. If you're replacing single pane windows, you can finance that with the heat loan as long as you've already completed all other recommended weatherization. Loie was talking about some of the pre-weatherization barriers, and there are a lot of different things that we're doing there. So in addition to some of the things that she mentioned, we offer $250 off the cost of addressing some of those barriers if you follow through with weatherization. And you can also finance remediating some of those problems if they come up through the heat loan. So, $250 won't get you very far if you do have knob and tube and you have to replace it. But it's not uncommon for us to find evidence of a previous knob and tube system that triggers us having to ask you to have an electrician look at it. And in many cases, that $250 will cover the cost of having that electrician come out, inspect your home, and do that sign off. So we do have a lot of things that we try to do to help with some of those other pre-weatherization barriers.
For the sliding door, you might also want to check the Home MVP website. Windows is listed in the list of things that they can cover, but I'm sure there's many caveats about what type of situation it is. So check that out.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you. We are out of time. That was a packed hour of really useful information, and we had a lot of questions. So I really appreciate all the answers you both provided. One person, I just want to close with this, asked for a reliable resource for clean electricity options. I speak with full confidence that the best place to go for that is our Green Energy Consumers Alliance. We do a lot of work to make sure that we are providing reliable information about clean electricity, and we provide clean electricity for both individual homes, for offices, but also through our Green Municipal Aggregation Program. If your city or town wants to do clean electricity for residents and businesses, we work on that. So if you email us at hello@greenenergyconsumers.org and check our website, greenenergyconsumers.org, you will find a lot of good information there. Our blog, we write a lot about electricity prices, what's happening with COVID and electricity, what's happening with offshore wind and electricity, and all the things you could think about. So I encourage you to check that. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time, and thank you to all of our participants for attending today and giving us this hour to learn about energy savings and saving money in your home. And I will share the recording with you within the next day or two of this webinar. And if you have any questions, again, reach out, please. Any last parting words from either of you?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Sign up, get your VHEA, Virtual Home Energy Assessment.
Perfect. I'm getting a lot of in the questions. Thank you for the webinar. Thank you. Informative. Thank you. Thank you. So very much appreciated for all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Daria.
And
Yeah, thanks, Daria. Thanks,
before
Lily.
I forget, we have a very quick survey that will pop up as soon as I close. It will take you no more than 2 minutes to fill out, and I would really appreciate your time. If you could answer our 3 questions, a minute or 2 is all that's needed. Thank you so much for everyone. Stay safe and healthy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.